What's up everyone, Super Nerd Daniel coming at you with something a little bit different today. I feel like I've said that a lot lately, but this is actually different, considering that this is a video about Undertale as opposed to Pokemon. So let's talk about Chara. Chara is a mysterious being, a human child similar in appearance to the main character Frisk. They only appear physically at the end of the Genocide Route, where they thank the player for helping them gain power, and then finish what you started with your act of genocide by completely destroying the world. After you reboot the game and wait 10 long, agonizing minutes in the abyss, Chara comes back and offers to restore the world for the low price of your immortal human soul. What a fiend, you might say. What a dastardly, devilish, no-good villain that Chara is. How evil of them. But is Chara truly the villain of Undertale? Yes, they are responsible for the direct actions that they themselves take, but when you stop and think about how Chara came to this point, how they gained all of that power to destroy the world, and you'll realize that it didn't have to be this way, and that all this finger-pointing at Chara seems to miss the point of who the bad guy truly is here. But before we get into that, we have to talk about the role Chara plays in the larger story of Undertale to get a better idea of who they are. Chara is the first of 8 humans to fall into the underground. Azrael Dreamer, the son of King Asgore and Queen Toriel, found the human and brought them to his home, where Asgore and Toriel adopted them and treated them as their own child. One day they became gravely ill, and as their dying wish, they wanted to see the flowers from their village on the surface. Chara died from their illness, and Azrael absorbed their soul, allowing he and Chara to exist as one being and pass through the barrier that otherwise trapped everyone underground. Azrael carried Chara's soulless corpse to their village and tried to lay it down on a bed of flowers, but was attacked by humans who thought Azrael had killed the child. Mortally wounded, Azrael took Chara's body back to the underground and succumbed to his wounds, dying in his father's arms. Chara's body was initially placed in a casket in the basement of Asgore's castle, but after Toriel left the capital city, she took Chara's body with her to the ruins, where she gave it a proper burial under a bed of golden flowers. The same bed of golden flowers where the playable character Frisk falls at the start of the game. Just keep that in mind for later. During the pacifist route, it's revealed that Chara planned to die. For whatever reason, perhaps due to their hate for humanity, they committed suicide through buttercup poisoning, so that Azrael could take 6 other souls from the humans, which Azrael would then absorb and use to break the barrier trapping monsters underground. By the way, if you know anything about buttercup poisoning, it is not a pleasant way to die. Symptoms include pain, abdominal cramps, blistering, swelling, ulceration, vomiting, and bloody diarrhea. It is not a fun way to spend your weekend. Now, it's important to distinguish that Frisk and Chara are, in fact, 2 separate people. However, before the reveal of Frisk's name at the end of the pacifist route, Azrael, at that point in his alternate form Flowey the Flower, had actually been confusing Frisk for Chara due to their physical resemblance and similar fashion sense. The player obviously would also assume that Chara and Frisk are one and the same, given that the game asks you in a new save to name the fallen human. Well, Frisk is a fallen human, they fell into the underground, so they clearly mean Frisk, right? Well, not exactly. We obviously learn later that the playable character's name was Frisk, and thus the human you're naming, the fallen human, is Chara. Or Spoopy, or whatever silly name you gave them, but the canon name is Chara. This is further solidified by the fact that when you enter Chara in the same naming screen, the flavor text simply reads, the true name. As I mentioned before, after Azrael's death, Chara's body was taken to the castle basement before being properly buried beneath some golden flowers in the ruins. Remember how I mentioned that those are the same golden flowers that Frisk falls on at the start of the game? That's important to note because Frisk falling onto that bed of golden flowers, that actually woke Chara up. Chara even says so themselves at the end of the Genocide Route. The main character's human soul and determination awakened Chara from death. Another interesting thing to note is, on a repeat Genocide Route, Chara refers to themselves as the demon that comes when people call its name. But how? When you play the game, you have no idea what Chara's name is, or if they're a separate entity from Frisk, and the only person who ever mentions calling out to Chara by name would be Flowey during the Genocide Route. Unless, of course, Chara refers to when you call out their name by naming the fallen human on the naming screen. This is definitely a fourth wall breaking thing, but Undertale makes it a point to break the fourth wall. Hell, breaking the fourth wall about things like save files and resetting and the fact that this is all just a game are not only acknowledged, but they're canon. Fourth wall breaks are integral to the story of this game. Is it so beyond the realm of possibility that naming the fallen human is actually using the power of your determination, the same power that allows a human soul to persist outside of its own body after death, the same power that grants you the ability to save and reset to awaken the fallen human. Obviously, Chara doesn't physically appear except at the end of the Genocide Route, but it's possible, if not very likely, that some essence of Chara exists within Frisk on their adventures, and that they only gain the ability to manifest physically as a pseudo-living being in the Genocide Route due to the power they gain from Frisk killing every single monster, represented by the increases in EXP, or execution points, and by proxy, the increase in love, or level of violence. Another choice Chara quote is them saying that every time one of your many stats increases, whenever your attack, defense, EXP, or whatever else goes up, that feeling you get is Chara. It's likely in this case that Chara's essence feeds off the ever-increasing love and EXP that you gain by killing monsters until there's finally enough to allow Chara to gain a physical form. Further evidence to show Chara slowly gaining more power as the Genocide Route progresses would be during select times when Chara takes over narration of in-game events. They refer to Papyrus as forgettable and to Monster Kid as free EXP. And later in Asgore's house, occasionally all red text appears in the dialogue box, reading things like, "Nothing useful. Still has that sweater." And of course, no chocolate. Okay, you might be saying, I can maybe accept that Frisk Human's soul somehow brought Chara's essence back to life vicariously through Frisk, but you still haven't really told me how Chara's not the main villain here. And at first glance, yeah, you're probably right. Chara really does appear to be the big bad. With the increased influence that Chara has over Frisk as their love increases, Chara does more and more of their own free will, at times taking away control completely from Frisk, and from the player, to act on their own. Notable examples include Chara walking through all of Papyrus's puzzles, and stepping forward aggressively towards Monster Kid and Mettaton, and even going so far as to control the expression on the face of Frisk to make a creepy face at Flowey, and then killing both Asgore and Flowey with no hesitation or remorse without the player's input. And ultimately, regardless of what choice you make when Chara asks you to help them erase the world, even if you say no, Chara just does it anyway, destroying the entire Undertale world with a single attack. Yes, while it's true that Chara is directly responsible for these specific actions, there's someone else who's ultimately at fault. Oh, okay, so you're saying we need to point the finger at Flowey. I knew it! I knew he was the big bad! It's all the fault of that stupid garden weed! Okay, slow down there, blamey McFinger Pointer. Yes, Flowey was the primary antagonist of the pacifist and neutral routes, and in the Genocide Route, Flowey does suggest that he and Chara team up to destroy the world together, but it's important to remember that Flowey was, and to some extent still is, Azrael Dreamer. It was only after his tragic death and his inability to feel love or compassion for others due to being reincarnated without a soul that he adopted his kill or be killed philosophy. And ultimately, any evil that Flowey could commit is vastly superseded by that of the true villain, because this person is the one being with the power to erase everything on a whim. The one being who, if they so chose, could give everyone their happy ending, and then turn right around and kill them all, just because they want to see what would happen. You know who I'm talking about, don't you? That's right. I'm talking about you. Ultimately, if you choose to commit genocide, you are the big bad. Everything bad that happens to these characters and the world at large is on your head. But what about all that bad stuff that Chara does? Yeah, Chara does occasionally act on their own power and do things without your input, but as I said earlier, it didn't have to be this way. Chara explicitly states that it was because of you, because of your decisions, that they came to the conclusion that the reason they were brought back from death was to gain power. Quote, "With your guidance, I realized the purpose of my reincarnation. Power. Together, we eradicated the enemy and became strong." And later, after the player restarts the game and waits for 10 minutes, again, quote, "Interesting. You want to go back. You want to go back to the world you destroyed. It was you who pushed everything to its edge. It was you who led the world to its destruction." Even Chara realizes that things wouldn't be this way if not for you. They couldn't possibly have gained the power they needed to manifest into a physical form and destroy the world if not for the way that you chose to play the game. And if you're still sitting there wondering how this could have possibly been your fault when you didn't know that this would happen or that this wasn't what you intended, just let me ask you an honest question here. What did you think was going to happen? Just what did you expect to happen when you made the choice to kill every living creature in the underground? And that's the key word, by the way. choice. You made the choice to play a game in a way explicitly dubbed the Genocide Route. You made the choice to walk around in a circle hoping and praying for more monsters to show up so you could satisfy some arbitrary kill counter. You made the choice to gain execution points to increase your level of violence, which you could only do by systematically killing every single monster. You can't just commit genocide by accident. And thus, whether you didn't know the consequences or you simply think you're above them, you made the choice to show Chara, who you reawakened when you called their name, that the only reason they were there was to kill these monsters and to gain power. The power that Chara turned against you to destroy the world that they wouldn't have gained if you had not made certain choices. And that's why all these posts on Tumblr and Reddit and whatnot that I always see that always suggest that the Genocide Route should have ended with some big climactic boss battle against Chara. One final showdown for the soul of Frisk and the fate of the world would just be missing the point. The idea of having some big final showdown with Chara and implicating them, and them alone as the villain, completely undermines the entire message that Toby Fox tried to get across with this game. That your choices have very real consequences, and that ultimately, the responsibility for those choices, and the effects that they have on others, it all falls squarely on you. You can use Chara as a scapegoat all you want. The fact remains that Chara wouldn't have destroyed the world if you hadn't given them that power. If you hadn't made the conscious decision to kill every living creature in the underground, and if you hadn't made the choice to show Chara that, despite it all, in the end, it's still kill or be killed. Well, that was a pretty long guilt trip, wasn't it? Let me know in the comments below if you'd like to see more videos about Undertale, because I have a couple more in mind that I would like to do if you want to see them. Or, you know, just type some badly misspelled all-caps comment telling me that everything is Chara's fault, despite everything I said in this video, and that you're gonna unsubscribe because complex issues of morality aren't hashtags so relatable. Give this video a like if you liked it, and subscribe for more videos like this in the future. See you next time, everyone, and stay determined. Super Nerd Daniel, out!